Therefore, the value of the platform comes from the number of people on the platform. There's something called the law of increasing returns. One example of a platform is the core banking platform that he was referring to. Those of us, if you go back 20 years, we were doing branch banking, we had branch banking software, we really didn't have centralized systems. Today, every major bank has a core banking system, and most of the big banks now have every branch in the country on a single core banking system, and even now, most of the RRBs are now also coming under the core banking system. So we are reaching a point where we have core banking in every bank branch. Now, this is a very important step, because what happens when you put the core banking onto a central platform of a bank is then it does not matter where the account is, because the account is on the database server, and the branch that account can be operated anywhere in the bank. So that itself gives you a certain leverage, because you get essentially national reach from having a core banking system, as opposed to a branch banking system where the data is only in one branch and you can't go anywhere else to operate your account. So core banking systems were the first platforms which we had, which essentially liberated us from being able to operate a bank account anywhere in the country where there was a bank branch. The second thing which happened, which is we can think of as a platform, is the whole concept of electronic banking. Electronic banking covers a wide gamut of things. It includes ATMs, point of sale, internet, call centers, mobile phones, etc. And as I mentioned, today we have something like 37 to 38,000 ATMs and 500,000 point of sale machines, and anybody can go to a call center, anybody can make a call to a call center. You can go on the internet and do this thing, and many banks, in fact all the banks, have introduced mobile banking. So what has happened there is, this is like another platform where all these things have come together and extended the reach of the banks to be able to deliver transactions to people over a wide variety of electronic platforms. Now, a couple of things happen because of this. One, it untethers the customer from going to the bank. In other words, these electronic platforms give you the banking where you want, as opposed to you going to the branch or going to anywhere, because you can sit at your home on the night on the internet and do a banking transaction. You can walk to an ATM, you can walk to a retail outlet, do a POS transaction, get a cash back, you can call up on the phone and get something done, and so on. So fundamentally, electronic banking essentially untethered the customer from the physical proximity of the branch and gave him what is called as anytime, anywhere banking. Any time of the day he can do his banking, and anywhere he can do it on the system, on the internet or wherever. So electronic banking is the second big platform we have. But once again, remember that all the electronic banking that we have is only reaching maybe 150 million people, because they are the people who will have access to ATMs, point of sale, they are the people who have phones, they are the people who can go to the internet and so forth. So while we have anytime, anywhere banking, it's still not universal in the sense that everybody in the country has access to the banking. The third big development which has happened in the last 15 years is the internet. And clearly, the internet is a platform, because it again gives us access to many, many things on the internet. I don't need to explain that. But as more and more people have internet connectivity, they can connect into the internet platform. The fourth big platform which we have is the mobile platform. So the mobile platform again is something where we have anywhere 300 million plus unique customers in this country. They are able to use the mobiles almost in any part of the country. The prices today have fallen. Every day there is a rate war among mobile companies, and we are seeing more and more competition emerging, and so on and so forth. So the mobile is also giving a platform. Now, in all these things, there is one thing which we felt is missing, which is how do you do identity verification? And that's where this UID stuff comes in. The basic purpose of the UID, or the Unique Identification Authority, is to give a unique number to every person and make sure that a person does not have more than one number. You may say that's not a big issue, but the reality is, if you look at all our databases in our country, whether we look at the ration card databases of different states or wherever, all these databases have multiple duplicates and ghosts, people who don't exist having numbers. And therefore, a fundamental way to access these people is compromised, because we don't have unique identification of all these people. And that's where the Unique Identification Authority becomes very important. And what we intend to do in this authority is to create a single national database where we have one record per person, which has a set of demographic information, simple information like his name, his address, his date of birth, and so on, and some biometric information about the person. Now, what that biometric information is still being consolidated. Definitely, we think it's going to be 10 fingerprints. It's going to be a picture, and possibly depends on our test whether we need to have a retinal thing or not, iris or not. But fundamentally, every person in this database will have some simple information, which is the demographics, and some biometric information. And that biometric information is sufficient to uniquely qualify or uniquely identify that person. But we still face the challenge when we do this to make sure that that database does not have more than one occurrence of that person. In other words, how do we make sure that system does not have duplicates? And the only way we can make sure that no duplicates is by doing what is called as a deduplication, which means when a person enrolls into this database, then we check against all the existing records in the database to see if there's any other person with the same biometric pattern. And if we find someone with that, then we reject that from the system. In other words, the duplicates are rejected at the point of entry. And therefore, once the person enters after the deduplication is done, then we can be reasonably confident that that person is unique in the system. And that's how we intend to build this tank. And ultimately, this tank or repository, whatever you want to call it, will have 1 billion plus names for every individual in the country, every resident in the country, simple demographic information and biometric information, and there will be no duplicates. Now, this is a massive exercise for a number of reasons. First, the scale of the problem, getting 1 billion people enrolled. The second is the logistics of the problem. We'll have to have thousands and thousands of points where we enroll people. We have to make sure they all follow the same process, they all follow the same quality, the fingerprints are captured in the same way, the picture is captured in the same way. Then we have massive deduplication logic, which is very, very computationally intensive and is frankly not a problem that anybody has solved yet, because the largest such databases are maybe 120 million people, and we have a database 10 times the largest in the world. And therefore, it's a massive technological challenge. I won't go into the details, but fundamentally, we have to figure that out. And we have to find a way to create this tank of 1 billion names of unique numbers and unique names. Now, your question you may ask is, how do we enroll all these people? The way we enroll the people into our system is through our partners, whom we call as registrars. For example, every bank could be a registrar. And if the banking system decides that the bank account must have the unique ID, then if somebody comes to a bank to open an account, and that person does not have a unique ID, then the bank will enroll that person on our behalf. And therefore, whether a person goes to the bank to open a bank account, goes to the income tax department to get a PAN number, goes to the passport to get a passport, goes to the PDA shop to get a ration card, goes to the NREGA worksite to get a job card or whatever, at every one of these points, if the person is, and that particular area has decided that they will use UID as a basis for their applications from then on, then if that particular person coming to that enrollment point does not have a UID number, then that person will be enrolled through that registrar. In other words, all these different registrars who will be surrounding the UID will be feeding in people for enrollment into our system. And we think that's the only way that we can get 1 billion people up in the system in a reasonable amount of time. And so we'll have this ecosystem of partners and registrars. Now, let's, for the time being, assume that we are able to fill this tank, and we have a tank of 1 billion names. What we believe makes it really transformational, and which essentially achieves the goal of what we're talking about this topic, which is providing affordable technologies for inclusive growth, is that we intend to provide